All right, so we're up here at hooking up the BioFalls, and it's really quite simple. It's a lot like hooking up the skimmer over there. The very first thing we want to do is get that liner nice and flat up against the face. So you can see Ed's already got it nice and flat. The other thing we want to do is if we have a little bit of extra liner, go ahead and bunch a little bit extra down below. The reason we're going to do that is if something changes and I want to come in here and pull some soil away or add some gravel, I've got a little bit of flex in here. The other thing the flex does is that it allows, as I'm stacking boulders in here to finish the liner, it's not gonna pull on the silicone seal, it'll pull the slack back out of the liner. So really important. So get that up there flat. We're gonna take our BioFall lip, push it right up against the face of the BioFalls, lining up the hole on the lip with the little gold insert back over here, just like we did on the skimmer. And then what we like to do is take the awl. Ed's gonna find that little insert. He's kind of made a depression here with his finger. Line that up. Go ahead and take one of our screws. So he's got one screw over here. Notice he didn't thread it in all the way. He's gonna do the same thing on this side. And just like the skimmer box, it's really just to kind of hold these two areas and line up these corners. Once we've lined up these two corners, we know everything's good. We can actually at this point go ahead and trim some of this extra off we wanted to, just to make it a little easier to see what we're doing. Now we've got some of that trimmed off. We're gonna go ahead, back this screw out, holding that liner up against the lip. We can lay this down, and then again, just like the skimmer, we wanna make sure that the face of this is nice and clean. We don't wanna see any soil, any mud. A lot of times it's easy to get some mud and soil up in here, especially because remember, we're taking all that soil from our excavated pond and we're throwing it over here to create our berm. A lot of times this can get pretty dirty throughout the construction process of your pond. So make sure this is clean. You also want to make sure the backside of this liner is nice and clean. Once those two have been cleaned, we can go ahead and take the remaining part of our silicone. We used half that tube for the skimmer box. We're gonna take the rest of it and go ahead and put a nice thick bead of silicone right over the top of all these inserts. Again, the reason we go ahead and line up these corner screws is you saw as Ed and Colleen were trying to get those things lined up, if the silicone was on first and they were moving that liner around, this silicone would spread all over the place, creating a big mess. So now that the silicone's on, we'll go ahead and grab those corners, keep this liner nice and flat. Colleen, you can line up your corner here. Good. You're gonna hold that. Good. Now notice, Ed, go ahead and tighten that in a little bit more. So Ed's using a hand tool here. There's no need to use a cordless drill or a driver of any sort. Just use a hand tool, because even with a hand tool, we can keep driving this in and in and in and in. And with a cordless, we'll drive that thing all the way through this plastic. And you can't feel if it's getting messed up or not. So just about hand tight is good enough. And then we're just gonna go around and continue those screws throughout the bottom of this. So you know you've got a nice silicone seal. As you're putting these screws in here, that silicone should shoot up a little bit between your faceplate and the liner. So as Ed tightens this last one, we should see that silicone kind of rise up through here. Once all that's done, I can take my razor blade and I'm gonna cut this out of here. Now the water will rise up through the BioFalls, through the filter media, and then be able to pour out over this way. However, we decide to put the rocks to create a nice looking waterfall.